Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name is Jody Sedrick, as you know, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And it is I don't know, it's probably in the top two of my favorite seasons of the year. I love Christmas. Summer's the other season, so it's either summer or Christmas, and I'm happy. But yeah, so we're in the middle of making toffee, and last year I started this crazy tradition where I actually drew all of the kids wrapping presents, and so I've been drawing Christmas wrapping, which takes a bit of a challenge, or time. So yeah, so it's that time of year. I'm having fun and loving it, and just got from back from the Netherlands, and they're all Christmas, man. So, I mean, if you're in the Christmas spirit kind of guy, you gotta go to the Netherlands and Germany. So, anyway, I'm super excited. I have an amazing man that is my guest today. His name is Rob Schruefer. So welcome, Rob. How are you?
Good. How are you, Johnny?
It's funny because for years you and I have been kind of in circles that kind of touch, right? They kind of overlap, but they don't completely overlap. And it's funny because when I was thinking about inviting you, well, actually, we had you as a guest on my other podcast for business, the Road to Fest podcast, and I went to get a picture of you, and everything was your wife, your kids, and I'm like, I gotta have this guy on.
That's probably more my wife than me because she puts the pictures up. But
Oh, there you go. Well, let's talk about your family, man. So you got your beautiful wife. How many years?
let's see. We were married in 2011, so I guess we just passed 13.
Wow, man, you're getting up there. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. And three kids, right?
I have two kids,
Two
two
kids.
boys, an 8 and an 11-year-old.
Oh man, you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about first. What has surprised you about being a dad that maybe you weren't expecting, that maybe you learned about yourself? Just what caught you off guard?
One of the things that I've learned is the way sports are now didn't it wasn't really the same when we were the kids. Like all these kids are on travel teams. My one kid is athletically the 11-year-old. He's very good athletically. So he's on an AAU basketball team. He's on a travel baseball team, and he doesn't have any downtime. Like literally every
Yeah.
single day, there's practices or games year round because these sports don't stop anymore. There's no like seasons or anything like that. It really surprised me how much of a commitment sports are to these kids these days in a way that
Yeah.
it wasn't. I mean, when I was a kid, you played rec baseball in the spring and you played rec soccer in the fall and you played rec basketball in the winter, and it just went like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a all year round thing, right? Because like our daughter, as you may know, she started volleyball at a very young age. We got her into club volleyball. We were traveling all over. Then she got into high school, and so then you had high school and club, and then we got into college, and then we were traveling for college. And it is a huge commitment. It's a commitment on the kids, but it's also a commitment on the dads and the moms, right? Because you're tracking them around everywhere.
And like one of the things that my dad always did growing up was he was at every practice and every game. It was like something that he did. So it just that's how I was brought up. So that's what I do. So I end up like assistant coaching or on his basketball team. I do stats and video. Like if I'm going to be there anyways, I might as well have a job. Like I'm not a person that can just kind of sit there and watch. So if I feel like if I'm coming anyways, I might as well give me something to do. And
Yeah.
but I end up doing something in all the stuff because it's I want to be there. So give me a job.
Well, that's good. I mean, let's talk about that. It sounds like you had a dad that was very active in your life, And so, what kind of impact did that have on you as a kid, but also growing up and becoming an adult?
Well, I just, when you're a kid, you don't really think about it. Like my dad was just always at practice. Like he every practice, every game, he was always there. So to me, that's just kind of like how it should have been. Like that's just. But when I see it, sometimes even some of the kids on my son Cole's team, like I never see the parents. Like they'll drop off at games at the door and roll and pick them back up at the end. They don't come in, they don't watch, they don't. I can't wrap my mind around that. Why would
Yeah.
you not? You're also spending all this money and doing all. Why wouldn't you want to be there? Like I guess they
Yeah.
always say like showing up matters. Like good, bad, whatever. They should be able to look over and see you there.
Showing up really does matter because I remember this one time I was playing soccer. It was a senior year, and I was playing right middle back, and I was not expecting my dad to be there. Right, it was a mid-afternoon game, and I'm like, I just, come back from the offensive side and I'm running back to the defensive because the ball got back a little bit behind me. And I look and I just happened out of the corner of my eye see my dad. And dude, it was so cool. I mean, it was like, whoa, my my dad's here. And I wasn't expecting it. And I just remember it made me feel really good that he took time out of his day to come and watch me play. And I remember on the drive home, because he actually ended up taking the whole afternoon off. He's like, "Yeah," he goes, "Man, I can't believe how quick you are. You should just get back there." And we just had this great conversation about the game and what he saw me, where I could get better, and he talked about the coach. But more than anything, I just remember him being there.
No, I think it matters. Like if they're having a bad game or a good game, to be able to look up and see you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So what other thing other than sports, what other things are your kids into?
well, the older one's into sports, the younger one's into nature and stuff. I think he's still kind of trying to figure out. We did Cub Scouts for a couple years. He wasn't really into that. He does play sports, but more the rec side, which I'm fine
Yeah.
with. The commitment is so much less. It's so much easier. But I think he's still just trying to kind of at 8 figure
Yeah.
out where he's going to be. What's his thing? What's his group of people? I think he's still kind of figuring that out a little bit.
It sounds like you're open to allowing them to explore. It's like, all right, you want to do this, I'll put you in it, I'll support you, I'm all in.
Yeah.
But you have to at least give it a shot. Like with me, with my kids, I'm like, if you're going to try basketball, soccer, or Cub Scouts, or whatever, you have to at least do it for a season.
Yeah,
You
we're doing
can't
the
do it.
season. We're going to practices. I don't care. I don't care if you hate it. We're doing it. So you signed up. You made the commitment to the team. We're not. We're doing it for the amount of time that we've agreed to.
Yeah, that's cool. So how has it been? I mean, obviously, you have a very supportive wife. You guys have been married almost 15 years. I mean, it's amazing how fast that time goes.
Yeah.
Has there been any dynamic that you guys have had to kind of figure out how your parenting styles may be different and how you've had to adjust or blend to make those work for your family?
Yeah, well, my wife's an elementary school principal, so she works a lot of hours, like long nights and sometimes, for events at school and stuff. So my job allows me to kind of pick up the other side, the slack of it. I'm home
Mhm.
earlier. I'm here to put the kids on the bus and get the kids off the bus and, um, take them to practices and feed them dinner and do that sort of thing, which, we talked about it in the other podcast where I didn't want to travel anymore because I was missing stuff I didn't want to miss. And it was too much of a burden on everything. So it was
Yeah.
easier to not do it anymore. Like I didn't need to do it. So, I made the commitment to scaling the business back a little bit to have more time to be able to spend doing those things that I enjoy.
Yeah. making that time for your kids is so important. I remember years ago when I was before I created our own business. I was working for another software company, and I handled the East Coast, and we're in Idaho, so mountain. So we're 2 hours behind you guys, and so every day I was at the office at 6, and I really didn't need to be there at 6. I probably could have easily been there at 7, right? And I just remember one morning, it was like 6:30. I'm starting to make the calls, and I'm just like, what am I doing? I'm like, my wife's at home. She's trying to get the kids off to school by herself, getting breakfast. I'm like, nah, dude, I gotta be present, right? And the very next day, from that day on, I was always there in the morning. I made breakfast for kids. I'd have music playing, and it just it, I love those times, going in and waking up my kids, and they it's funny because when I wake my kids in up, I make up songs. So I go in and I'm singing, making up songs. They're pulling the sheets over there. Oh, dad, come on, quit singing, whatever, right? But it's kind of funny because now, like, even my niece, when I go over, she's like, "Are you gonna sing to wake up the kids?" It's just kind of what you expect, right?
My kids are still young enough that they get up before, not maybe not awake before me, but certainly out of bed before me. They're not
Yeah.
teenagers yet that are like, nah, I'm not.
Yeah, you're
So
gonna hit that.
yeah, eventually, but they're not there yet. They get up and go downstairs.
You're gonna hit that. So what is your it sounds like you're a very present dad, very engaged. Sounds like you and your wife have really figured out a dynamic that works well with your careers, your personalities. Um, what has been the biggest challenge for you as a dad?
Um, hmm. I guess sometimes letting them fail,
Mm.
like you always want to like be involved. I remember, when my son was 8, he didn't make the travel team when he tried out, and it's hard at any age to face that sort of rejection. But at 8, you're like, oh God. Yeah. But it's a lesson that is learned. If you want something, it's not always just given to you, but just letting that process play out is difficult sometimes, just because you have to fail to learn anything in life, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to let that sort of thing happen naturally and
Yeah.
not step in and get involved and try to make it better. You see these helicopter parents that always think that they have to be involved in everything, and they're involved in friendships and in every little way, and you're just it's annoying. It's annoying for me as another parent. I'm just like, like your kid is never going to learn how to function on their own in society if you do everything for them. And you
Yeah.
see it as a generational thing. And as you get older, you're always complaining about younger generations. But, I hire kids in their teens and 20s that I don't know how they get through the day sometimes. Like who taught you how to be a person? Somebody has failed you along the line here to think that you're entitled to that sort of pay and without having to do anything for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think we as dads tend to jump in really quick instead of just letting them struggle, letting them wrestle with the problem. When is the last time that one of your kids came to you and they're like, "Dad, how do I do this?" And you're like, "Well, what have you tried? What haven't you tried? What do you think might be, do we ever discipline ourselves and provide an environment where we put it back on our kids to really wrestle with the problem and try to come up with one?"
As an adult, you need problem solving skills, like and interpersonal skills. Like you have to learn how to relate and work with people that you don't necessarily like you don't have to be friends with everybody, but you have to be able to manage relationships, even
Yeah.
with people you don't like you have to have a way to function and you know, not be a problem. Like,
Yeah.
my older son, he's one of the cool kids. So I always try to stress to him, like, don't be a jerk. Like, okay,
Mm,
fine, you're a cool kid, but that doesn't mean you have to be an asshole to the people that aren't. Don't be a bully. Don't do things that
mm.
you wouldn't want done to you. And that's something that I always try to talk to him about, is just being, a relatable, nice person. You don't have to, even if you are a cool kid, you don't have to be a jerk.
There's a lot of power in that because you walk. I mean, you think back at your experience in high school, whether you were a jock or a cheerleader on the band team, on the dance team, you weren't. You were just a student, right? Just trying to survive. And man, if you had more parents that were going, look, you're a jock, and so there's a responsibility for you to try to be inclusive and not lift yourself in pride and all that stuff. I mean, yes, you're not going to connect with everybody, but you can always be cordial and you can always be nice. And on the flip side, being that smaller kid that's looking up to them, that wants to be included but doesn't feel like he can, instilling in that young man or that young girl that they have value, they have worth, that their voice matters, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to say yes. It's okay to say, I'm not so sure. Let's think about it, right? But
Sometimes those kids are just waiting for somebody to include them.
yeah.
Maybe they're too shy to go and ask, but if you include them, they'll play.
Yeah, and I know one of my favorite memories in high school is me and my friend Don Joyner. We loved to dance. I mean, we would pop and lock, we would break, and we would do all kind of stuff, and we would go to the school or church dances, and we would have a competition with how many girls that we could dance with, right? Because we're like, man, there's so many people just sitting on the floor, and so we man, we would, and it just became fun, and we created this environment where everybody was on the dance floor because we were all right. I'm going to grab another one. I'm going to grab another one, and it became more about having a good time and dancing together than it did about, oh, let's hook up, let's connect, and it made it less awkward a bit and more fun, in my opinion. And I think instilling that kind of inclusiveness in your kids to go, hey man, invite these people in, because like you said, maybe they're just on the wall because they're not sure how to get invited in, and they don't know how to go up and just say, hi, my name's Fred, and what's your name, right? Most
Middle
kids go,
school,
oh
middle school's a tough time for everybody.
yeah,
Middle school and high school, like that. Everybody's awkward. Everybody's trying to find their place. So,
yeah,
those are weird times for everybody too.
yeah. They're and I remember as a kid, it was especially awkward for age 14 was miserable. I mean, just miserable. I think we moved 3 times that year. I had just gotten glasses. I had braces. I had that horrible greasy hair for a while, and it's just like it just feels so awkward. And I was always the new kid, right? And it's like all these other kids, they'd had friends forever, and I mean, in one way, it was really good for me because it really did pull me out of my comfort zone, and I just had to make friends. But it also created an environment where me and my brothers were pretty tight, right? Because we were in the Navy and we always had to move, so we always had each other as friends. But yeah, that's a crazy time, man.
Well, I mean, I remember going through it. It's tough. So, and I
Yeah,
definitely wasn't one of the cool kids. So, just takes,
yeah, no, that's fun. So looking back, as you've learned to be a dad, now what are some things that you think are critical for dads to do in their homes?
homes.
Or
I,
in their family, right? Right.
yeah, like I talked about before, I think just being there and being reliable, like annoyingly reliable. Like, why are you always, like, why are you always here? Like, it might annoy them now, but I think when you later in life, when you look back, you're like, oh, okay, I understand. I think things change a lot too. Once you become a dad and you look back at how it was when you were growing up, and then you kind of shape how that is going to be for your kids. But I think it's hard to get a perspective on that until you become a dad and you have your own things and you see some of the ways, some of the discipline that was done and some of the things you didn't understand when you were growing up. But now, as an adult, you're like, oh, okay, now I know why I did that.
Now I
And why,
get it.
yeah, yeah. Why they
I,
were so hard on me about this certain thing, or this person who I wanted to hang out with, that they were like, "What are you doing?" Like you see that kind of stuff.
yeah, I really like that phrase. Be annoyingly reliable.
Yeah.
and and this morning I was actually flipping through one of my well, he was actually a coach and a mentor, but he's become just one of my best friends in the world. And his name's Sean Hart. He runs a program called Involved Dad. And I help him with like their newsletter and bouncing ideas off with him and stuff. But today he did a post on his personal page and he talked about dads lift up your kids. And it just the whole segment's about the power of you as a dad lifting your kids up physically or emotionally. And my dad was like your dad. He was always present. He always showed up. We were Navy brats, so we weren't rich by any means, but every summer we went camping together. My dad always went to scouts with us. In fact, we went on a 20-mile hike, me and my dad once with the scout troop. And I mean, within 3 miles, maybe five tops, all the other kids had completely drank all of their water. And my dad kept telling me every time I went to get a drink, he was, "Don't drink, just hold on to it, man." And we were the only ones that had water from like mile 3 to mile 19. And and I appreciated him walking next to me because he was saying, "Look," he goes, "we have 20 miles to go. We need to ration this. We need to pace it, right? So once every 3 miles, we'll take a drink, right?" And he taught me, he gave me the reason why, but he also walked with me as we were doing it. And I'll never forget it, man. Everybody was just dragging. They were so thirsty. And we started going up this hill, and there was this pine tree that had this natural spring coming out of it, and man, everybody was just slopping up that water. and and my dad goes, "Guys, slow down, you're gonna muddy the water and make it nasty." And so everybody got their fill, and we literally climbed over the hill, and there was the end of the hike. So, but and it's like, how do we as dads either walk with their kids or lift them up? I love that imagery. And one of the things that the speaker said was one of the reasons why you lift your kids up is to give them perspective on how you see the world.
Good.
Because you think about it, when you're 3, 5 years old, man, your dad looks like a giant, and you get up and, dude, wow, this is what the world looks up here. But I think more importantly is, how does the world really look like from dad's perspective? Right? I'm teaching you, I'm trying to model things to give you perspective, to give you experience, to empower you to make decisions so that you will be prepared, unlike a lot of your employees, to walk out in the world and make some critical decisions for them.
My parents, that we did okay, but at 14 or 15, they're like, you need to get a job. And they didn't. I went out and worked from I got my first job at 15 and have never not worked since then. So, that was something that they really instilled in me too, is working hard. And, me and my sister both own our own businesses just because of, you get started early and you make those decisions about how your work ethic is going to be, and you you kind of forge your own way, and that's sort of what they encouraged us to do. So,
Yeah.
I think that that's kind of something important too, is getting out there and working and learning how to manage a job.
Do you see that as especially being a business owner, do you see that as something that is lacking in a lot of kids' experience at home?
Well, yeah, because I get people who are in their 20s who've never had a job before. I'm
Mm,
like, how can this be? I remember when I was in college, I was the only person I knew with a job. I just went and got a restaurant job. It'd been what I've been doing, so it was easy enough. It gave me some extra money,
yeah,
gave me kind of something to do. I didn't mind it, because when you work every day, starting at 15 or so, it kind of feels weird to not have a job.
yeah,
So, I just went and got one. But, if you get into your 20s and you've never worked, you don't, it's like socializing a dog. If they've never been around other dogs, they don't know how to act when you put them with them.
yeah,
So, you throw a kid into the mix in their 20s who's mentally unprepared for what they have to do.
yeah. No, dude, that's a good analogy, man. Throwing them in with the dogs. Get, I have a lot of conversations with my son Ashton. He's got a really good job, but it's like sometimes he's like, man, I just wish people would like really think and plan. They just react instead of going, all right, dude, I keep encountering the same problems over and over. Why am I encountering the same problems? And he goes, if you would just step it back and you would plan better, you wouldn't run into the same problem that you're having every week. And I just see him pulling his hair out. And he's like, Dad, I can't get him to see it.
Yeah.
And it's because they haven't been given those experiences to develop those skills, right? And it's our job as dad, in part, to arm them with those skills.
Anything else, it takes practice. If you've never done
Yeah.
it before, you can't be expected to be good at it.
Yeah.
So the sooner they get started on those sort of things, the better off they'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the other things that we as dads trip up on, and it goes back to an experience my friend Leighton had. He said in Idaho here, a lot of times you have to pull water to irrigate the crops, right? So we have these 3 foot ditches and literally have these metal poles that are about probably 2.5 feet long, 30 inches long. And they basically stick them in the canal when the water comes and then they irrigate the thing. Or you have to actually physically move these big pipes. And one day his dad took him out and he's like, all right, I want you to irrigate the field, and just left him. And dad came back an hour later and Leighton's still sitting there. And his dad got out. He was just hot. What have you been doing all day? Why haven't you gotten this field irrigated and stuff? And Leighton goes, I don't know how to do it, Dad.
Taught me.
You didn't teach me, right? And I think a lot of times we expect our kids to know something that we haven't taught them. And it sets them up for failure.
I
And then
agree.
we get disappointed.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, dude, I just kudos to you, man. I mean, really, as I was scrolling through your Facebook, I could tell that there's a family that's united, they're connected, they're working together, they're having fun together. And that doesn't just happen. So in conclusion, and one I have one last question. Um and this is related to being a dad, but it's not directly relate. It's not a direct correlation, and that is, looking at your relationship with your wife. What has made that relationship? so strong and thus blessing the family in the way it has?
I don't. We're both kind of leaders in what we do. You know, like I run my own business. She's got staff of a couple hundred people, so we kind of have to deal with those sort of things day in and day out. You know, like conflict management, tough conversations. You know, those sort of things that you just kind of have to deal with, even in the business life. You know, sometimes you just have to have conversations that you don't want to have, but they're unavoidable, you know, and just
Yeah.
having them and hashing it out and just figuring it out is you know, what you have to do sometimes just to make it work.
Yeah, that's good, man. Well, I want to thank you for sharing some of your insight, your experience, because being a dad's not easy.
Not
Being
always.
a husband's not always easy either, but it also is a lot of fun. I love being married. I love being a dad, and it's both marriage and being a dad have exposed the ugly in me, but they've also exposed the beautiful in me, and also helped me become a better person. And I just love that about being married and having a kid, and I'm sure you've probably discovered that about yourself as well.
Not always roses, you know, but it's
No, it's not. So, well,
long
thank
as
you.
it generally is, you know.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for tapping in with me this morning or this afternoon. I don't know what day it is, man. All I know is all blending together. So, anyway, thank you so much for being my guest. Appreciate everything you do for me and personal. Even if our circles just kind of touch every once in a
Yeah.
while, dude, you just have
Known
such.
each other a long time for sure.
I know, but you really do have an impact on kind of how I see things and how I try to move. It's amazing how these little relationships can really impact you. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for tapping in and listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you haven't picked up a Christmas gift, go out and pick up my book. But how far must I go? A Journey in Faith. It's out on Amazon. I'm sure you can get it well in time for Christmas. So anyway, thank you guys so much, and we will check you same time, same bat channel just next week. See ya.